Colleagues, welcome to the webinar series of Forum Sri Lanka. Today, the present is Engineer Sena Piris. I don't think that there's anyone here in this gathering not knowing Engineer Sena Piris, but it is my duty to introduce him. Before that, uh, for those who are joining us for the first time, SCP Forum Sri Lanka is a professional body, and we have this webinar series is a monthly event. Every 27th of every month from 19 hours to 20 hours, we have this webinar presentation by either one of our members or guest speaker on a related topic. So you are welcome to join. So it is a fixed day, fixed time. And within this 1 hour, our presenter will use about 40 minutes to make the presentation, leaving us about 20 minutes to clarification, the question and answers. So that is how it is. And also our members are kindly requested to remain after the presentation for us to discuss some business matters for about 5 to 10 minutes at the end of it. And though Mr. Senapidis is a very well-known personality, known to all of us, but it is my pleasant duty to introduce him again. As you know, he's a graduate from Peradeniya, University of Peradeniya, graduated in 1972. So he's one of the most senior engineers around us. In fact, he's 5 years senior to me. And since the graduation, he has served in the industry for a long period of time, about 26 years until 1998. And he has held many positions, different positions in different organizations, starting as a mechanical engineer, then chief engineer, works manager, and also the general manager. So in 1998, he engaged as a consultant to cleaner production, which was new to, this cleaner production was introduced to the world and to the country. That was the latter part of 1990s. Then also after 4 years of operation there as a consultant, in 2002, National Cleaner Production Center was established as Mr. Sena Piris as the founding director, the CEO of NCPC. And he served NCPC for a long period of 13 years and retired in 2015. Yeah. Since then, he has been very actively engaged in various the fora, the professional bodies, and contributing lot to the national the endeavors. And also, he has been a president of Asia Pacific Roundtable for Sustainable Consumption and Production for a period of 4 years from 2011 to 2014. Currently, he's the president of Lanka Responsible Care Council and also the chairman of National Expert Committee on Climate Change Mitigation. He also having his own consultancy organization, by the name Business and Industry Development Services Private Limited. I think he's partnered with engineer Nihal Kure. So with this little introduction, now we have the pleasure of listening to one of the, I would say, the father of cleaner production in Sri Lanka. Yeah. So with very high regard to him, not only as a the expert in cleaner production, SCP, but also as a true gentleman, very genuinely contributing to the national development in various capacities he can. So now let me invite Mr. Sena Piris to make his presentation. So I'm stopping this and Mr. Pires could share his presentation.
Thank you, Gamini. Thank you for the introduction. I hope you can hear me clearly.
Yes, we can.
Yeah. First of all, let me express my gratitude to SCP Forum Sri Lanka, which is still it's in infancy, which can do a lot of work in the future. But I think I would like to invite all the young generation to promote this and make sure that we can change the way people are behaving, and so that we'll be able to make this country a better place for the future. And I hope you can see my presentation also. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Right.
Yes, you can see it.
Right. Thank you. I will switch off my, camera, but because I think it can give better signals. I'll be, skipping some slides because of the limited time. I'll try to give the message rather than talking about each slide. So what I want to say, we are overusing, misusing, abusing of resources, and these are the fortunes we are having in the drain, or rather wasted, which can be converted to something useful. So let me start. Give me a minute, I think. We know about this, what we have today. We have only, considering the total land space we have in the earth, we have only 1.55 hectare per person. If you divide the bioproductive land and sea among all the people equally. So we have to remember that, because we are having only that. Yeah.
Sorry to disturb you.
Yeah.
I think you need to, being the host, you need to admit some people joining now.
Right.
While sorry for that.
I don't see anybody wait in the.
Don't you see? Yeah. Okay. So he was admitted. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Right.
Sorry.
Right. Okay. It's only 1.55 hectares per person we have, because we are sharing this 1.55 hectares also with all the other life forms on this earth. So that's why we have to understand that we have to cohabit on this planet. And and in this planet, we are using all these bioproductive land and space to meet our requirements, using it for our food, using it for our energy, and also for our building, roads, everything, our infrastructure, and also the sea, not the whole ocean, but part of the sea, for meeting our requirements, especially the seafood and all that. So when it comes to this, and we are at the moment, where are we standing? That's the most important thing. So if you look at this picture, you know, the United States is having about 9.7 hectares of the footprint, the total footprint. And I told the fair share is only 1.55 per person. And this shows that the US, a person living in US consuming about almost 6 people's resources in the world. And so is Norway and France, all those countries. So that we can see that they are overusing the resources, whereas some countries in the world are not having sufficient resources for their living. And in this total footprint, the material footprint is about, you can see developing region is about 9.1 compared to developed world about 22.9, this metric tons. And from 1970 to 2017, our extraction of material has gone up from 27 billion to 92 billion, of which 26% is food. And if we are consuming this food, we can be happy. But unfortunately, we are consuming 26, the footprint I'm talking of, not the footprint. The footprint is 26% out of total. So we are generating so much of food, and out of which we are keeping at least 822 million hungry while we are throwing so much of food. And 9 million people die, according to UNEP, every year because of hunger and starvation. With this situation, they say, if we can save, the value of the food is about $1 trillion. If we can save this food, we can feed additional 2 billion people. But the current situation is we are wasting so much of food. And I'm not going to talk about this one, but if we can save this food, if we can change the eating habits, we'll be able to save so much, and also we'll be able to shift our ecological dead day. I'll talk about it later. I'll skip this slide because this is more about the environmentally friendly food and what is happening today. In the world, we are eating a lot of meat. Unfortunately, the world is moving from a cereal-based meal to the meat-based meal. The China has increased the 15 times the consumption of meat. And you can see Saudi Arabia, Brazil, and few countries about 6 times. So in other words, the meat consumption is increasing. Even in Sri Lanka, there's a meat consumption is increasing. The land we have will not be sufficient for us to meet the meat requirement in the world, especially if China and India start eating. Fortunately, India is not. Fortunately, if both start eating and Brazil, we are going to have a tremendous problem. From that, let me come to a different concept. We are talking of this. I'm sure you hear. You see this one. This about a person's the day. The person actually is something like that. What we are wearing, maybe the wristwatch, or maybe the coffee maker, or maybe whatever, the jeans or the t-shirt, all these are actually more than what we really see. The difference is what we see in our hand is a very small amount, whereas the amount of material gone to make them is much, much bigger than what we are having in our hand or what we see the apparent weight. So this ecological rucksack is a huge problem. And this ecological rucksack shows that, this is my favorite slide, everywhere I show, a bridegroom, when he tries to put a 5-gram gold ring on the finger of a bride, he is damaging 2,000 kilograms of material on the earth. And it's mostly degradable. The land is degraded, and also a lot of material is degraded. So with this, you can see, and not only this, the ring, all our products are having a huge ecological rucksack. And if I show you, the gold is about, to make 1 ton, the total material requirement comes to about, roughly about, I think, 350,000 tons. To make 1 ton, the total material passing through the process is 350,000 tons. So this way you can compare all these materials, and these degraded materials, what happens, and that's the issue, the material, most of the natural resources, we get some goods and services, which end up again as waste at the end, but we are wasting more and more as pollution and causing environmental disturbances. So this is the concern we have. So one thing, we should be able to reduce this pollution and improve the goods and services for the more population in the world, which we cannot avoid anyway. Every person born to this earth needs all these resources. And most of the resources end up in our waterways and maybe somewhere which cannot be recovered by us. It's mostly because of our own behavior, our habits. So as the result, maybe in 2012, the situation was like this. We have damaged about 60% of the ecological ecosystems, while extracting nearly 140 billion tons of material. While this is happening, the temperature is expected to increase more than 2 degrees, and maybe more and more people are looking for a better quality of life. They are getting into middle-class consumers, requesting more and more resources, more and more services, and more luxuries. So if you look at the real world, this is what we talk about, but I'm not going to talk about this. About 20% of the world population account for about 80% of the consumption of world resources. The richest 1% controls 40% of the world wealth, while poorest 50% own only 1%. So the others obvious. So when we have this disparity, we are not going to have probably a sustainable world even in future. If we take domestic material consumption, Sri Lanka, we can see Sri Lanka is very low compared to the world, and we are compared to China, of course, much low. Compared to 2017 and comparing 2000. Even at 2000, you can see we were very low, and even today is quite low. Right? So this is per capita. This is an important thing. And if you compare this here, the material consumption, South Asia, this includes Sri Lanka, require 3.2, that was few years ago, today about 2.8 kilograms of resources to create $1 of value. Whereas the certain countries like Australia, New Zealand, Europe, all those are having a much lower value. This one reason for the South Asian and also to some extent Southeast Asian countries, the high footprint may be because the dirty industries came to these areas to improve the economic conditions, but more materials are consumed here, which is accounted to the manufacturer, not to the consumer. But overall, we need to about 2.8 kilograms to make $1 of material. The real efficiency is if we can make less than 1 kilogram per dollar. So, but it's a long way to go. And if you look at the income groups, you can see the low income group, the material footprint is about 2 metric tons, whereas high income is about 26 metric tons. You can see the disparity. In the world also, the material consumption is actually about 12.2, the current level, metric tons per person. So you can see the disparities among the different income groups as well as different regions. And if I talk about emissions, about 25% of the global GHG emissions are also because of this material production, which is mainly come from all these the metals, minerals, and as well as plastics and rubber. So also wood to some extent. So these are quite a significant one. From 1995, it has gone up to 15 to 23% in 2015. So if we talk about plastic pollution, which I'm not going to dwell on it because Mr. Kumar spoke about it last time, plastic primary production, if you look at different sectors, it's quite large, and the total is about actually, you can see so much of material is actually produced, of which only less than 10% is about 9% is coming back to the manufacturing cycle. Maybe another 10 to 12% may be remaining with people for a long time, durable goods, but the balance is either in the ocean or in our dump yards or in the landfills. So this is a serious issue, which I'm not going to talk about, but I think important we have to pay more attention on this. And we have to understand plastic is a very important material. If you consider plastic packaging, actually it saved so much of fuel and also emission. And if you take Airbus, if it is made purely from the metal, it will have actually much weight, much heavier, and also it will have consumed more fuel. But because of plastics, the operating cost has gone down by 15%. And also think of all these wires and cables we are using. I mean, unless we have plastic, it would have been a very difficult, I think, solution for us to find alternatives, and even health improvement. Now, this is a very clear case of misuse of the material. I think we can see we are not properly managing our material usage. So, this is something, especially during COVID-19, this has increased the consumption of plastic. Even in, I think in Thailand, in Bangkok only, the increase about 1,300 tons per day. And it has changed all these, the disposal, the distribution, everything has changed. So I'm not again going to go into more into details. This is available, I think, on the internet. If I take about the chemicals, that globally, the chemical industry is growing and it is actually very large. It produces about 2.3 billion tons, and per capita consumption in the world rose from about 185 kilograms to 310 in 2017. But look at Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka increased it 210 kilograms in 2002 to 630 kilograms in 2012. Maybe one, if you talk about the pesticides and agrochemicals, that comes to about 50, I think about 100 kilograms. It's not only pesticides and the agrochemicals, it's so many other things from the morning, from the point we get up until we go to the bed every day, and even probably in the night also, we are using chemicals. And even after dying, I mean, people are using chemicals for various reasons also, you know. And we have about 1.6 million deaths caused by chemicals. This is something very important for us to understand. This again is misuse of chemicals, and sometimes overuse also. When we need something, especially when it comes to the agrochemicals, we know that we are overusing, and which has caused so much of tremendous problems, which is beyond my accurate talk today. So, I mean, there are a lot of other things, especially with the chemicals, the POPs, right? We know there are more than, I mean, I think at the moment, more than 500 POPs are identified, supposed to be actually added to the environment. But the famous ones are DDT, PCB, and also the unintentionally produced dioxins and furans. So there are many others coming into the scene. Managing the current 21 POPs, the 12 dirty dozen plus the added 9, the 21 cost the world, I think, billions of dollars to manage them and to dispose them. Just imagine 500 POPs coming into the scene, what will be the cost to the world. And the money that should be spent for development has to be spent for destruction of these POPs. Otherwise, we'll have a lot of health problems and maybe unknown various syndromes coming into the picture. Coming into the energy, and we all know still we are using oil and coal and gas. Still, 2019, this is the picture, and we have very small amount of solar energy and other renewables. Still, we are dependent on so much of these petroleum fuels. And the petroleum fuels are causing so much of issues, the climate change. And in the world, with all these, I mean, so much of usage, we are having more than, I think, close to about 1 billion people, they do not have access to electricity. And 3 billion people do not have access to clean fuels for cooking. And it's causing indoor air pollution. And also, in different countries, the per capita electricity consumption and also per capita energy consumption is widely, I think, different. And you can see this picture, which shows Canada, while they are consuming about roughly about, I think, 100,000 kilowatt hours per capita. India, it's only about less than even, I think, 100. About 10,000. So the change of 1 to 10. So you can see this variation, the energy consumption is also there. And in that, you can see the emissions. The emissions, though we are having so much of energy consumption, and the emissions are increasing more and more, China, United States, and Russia, and these countries, significant amounts. The rest of the world, the rest of the world, including Sri Lanka, I think many countries, over 100 countries, emit less than 20%. So this needs to be, and this is 2012, and this is the latest picture. Sorry, it is not very clear to you, but it shows, this is available on the internet, and it's from the World Resources Institute. It shows China, United States are having the big portion, and The gray area you can see is a huge, so many number of countries, but the amount is comparatively smaller. So you can see, I mean, this is a big issue again. Few countries are overusing and maybe misusing of the resources. And as a result of that, the climate change, I'm not going to go into that one, is going to be a big problem, and we are going to face these issues. Unless we go for a change, completely change behavior, which cannot be seen by the current trends. Even for 1.5 degree pathway, there should be a huge change of the people's behavior, the lifestyles. And again, it comes to water, the water consumption. You can see it has increased tremendously from about 500 billion to about 4 trillion. And if you see, you can see Sri Lanka, you can see very small, different countries are having so much of water per capita. And if you take Brazil, it has gone down from 70,000 to about less than, I think, 30,000. Whereas you can see Sri Lanka is still having about only about, I think, 2,000 cubic meters per person, and it has not changed much. Right? Though this is available, we know we don't have water at proper places at the proper times. We are having droughts and floods and all these issues. So we have to understand that also. This also, sometimes we see the overuse of and misuse of water, especially when it comes to water, the misuse and abuse is very high. Every day, day to day, we are using and abusing the water. So I will not go into this picture. This is about waste composition by income groups, but you can read them later because it will be available to you. And if you see Sri Lanka, they say, you can see it's the third from the bottom, the Sri Lanka also increasing their per person the waste generation, per capita waste generation. And we are going to have significant waste generation. And even today we are having an issue of waste management. So if the quantity increases, what are we going to do and what are the solutions? Probably somebody might say organic waste can be converted to the compost now, but I mean, are we having a proper plan for that? Are we having a proper means of doing it, converting this? So these are issues we have. And if in this picture, you may not be able to see very clearly, this is to show how many words each country requires. If you see from the top, the fifth row from the top, we are having a gray, let me see whether I can show you. Yeah, Sri Lanka is here. Right? I hope you can see this one. Sri Lanka is here. And we are not that bad compared to other countries, where we know that countries like USA needs 5 words, and whereas other countries of different, I think, number of words, if they want to continue this way of lifestyle. Unless we change, there is no solution for us. The world will definitely go down, and we may be another 100 years, human life will be not existent on this earth. So this is another actually picture I received from, I think, another Mr. Chandra Muldenia. He sent me. This is available on the Statista website. You can see USA and so much. So we can see we are over-consuming. The world, it's though we have only 1.55 hectares, as I told at the beginning, we are only having, we are consuming 2.2 hectares per person. That means more than what we have on this earth. Is almost about 60% more. And this shows that one day, the way we are going, we are developing from nomadic area. Today we are in the information era, but unless we change our behavior, change our way of living, and change all our industries, our agriculture, everything, we are going to have an overshoot and collapse. But if we understand and have this change, we'll be able to go for the sustainable era, which can be long lasting, and maybe the civilization can go on. So unless we do that, at the moment we are having this overshoot. As I told you, this overshoot is already happening. You can see these are the overshoot days since 1970. 1970, it was December 30th. We 1 day advance. The overshoot means we have consumed all the eco services given by the earth available for that year, and then we have to consume from the next year. So we are over consuming. And by 2020, you can see August 27, and in 2 days time, today is 27, in 2 days time, the world will go to an overshoot mode. In other words, from 29th of July, August 22nd, it may be because we had the COVID and our consumption became less, the traveling became less, the resources was saved. You have the similar situation somewhere in, I think, 2000, somewhere in early 2000 also, because of the issues in USA. But in 2021, from July 29th, we are going to depend on the resources available for the future generations. So this is a serious issue for us. So unless we change it, we are going for definite collapse. And so the overshoot day is shown in a different way. You can see this again. Right? And this shows different countries. Sri Lanka, unfortunately, is not included. This shows different countries. What is the individual overshoot day for each country? I'm not going to discuss, but you can actually read it. This is available again on the, I think, World Resource Institute websites. So what do? We have to change our way of living. We have to learn and evaluate, and then probably monitor our use and set targets and test and innovate. The most important thing is in resource use, we have to do test and innovate. So there are a lot of things we have to do. We have to monitor the state of environment. We have to use we have to learn, monitor the way we use resources and resource flows, and then change our way, maybe SDGs or maybe various other targets, and adjust our lives, the living styles, maybe the behavior, so that we are sure that we can make sure the future generation can live peacefully, at least the same level we are living today. So we need decoupling, and I'm sure most of you have seen this. We need this decoupling. We need the resource decoupling as well as environmental decoupling, the impact decoupling. So if we do that, might be able to actually improve this, because there are examples of resource decoupling in the world. Unfortunately, the rebound effect is there. But still with that, if we start really do not the relative decoupling, the absolute decoupling will be able to save a certain amount of resources and also save the environment also. To do that, I believe this picture, I'm sure some of you have already seen. We always have to understand there's nothing called waste. The pollution and resource depletion due to waste is a myth. The waste, all the waste what we talk are resources, valuable resources in the wrong place, with the wrong form, the wrong media. We know if you start talking about the oranges, if we eat an orange, we have to throw the orange peel. The orange peel is a waste for the person who is eating the orange. But is the orange peel really a waste? Can it be changed? Can it be converted to a valuable resource? It can be. You can make maybe essential oils, or at least you can make it an animal feed. And think of, again, this is the different form. When it's a wrong form, we have to start innovating. We have to go for different solution. If it is the wrong place, think of milk. Milk in your hand is valuable, but milk in the grain has no value. If you put it to a wrong place, it becomes a waste. Unless we change the behavior, understanding that there's no waste, it is only resources. When you see the municipal lorry carrying the waste, please see the 500 rupee, 1000 rupee notes embedded in it, not waste, and don't cover your nose. Because then only we'll understand how we have to change to make a change in the world. So the solutions in the resource decoupling, I believe, are one thing, reduction of resource intensity of products, the reducing the ecological rucksack. And whenever we can't do the resource reduction, recover the resources, and wherever possible, recover the resources and change the product, redesign the products. One important thing is sometimes by redesigning products, we can reduce the waste of material during consumption. But with all that, we need to reduce consumption also from the what is called the emotional consumption to smart consumption. Change from emotional consumption to intelligent consumption. And so this is one example of a redesign by Kingfisher, the powering. They are changing the material, the product, they are doing eco-design, and by changing, and they are saving so much of materials, and they are going into what is called the circular economy part, circular material flow. And also remember, they are not selling the product, they are only renting, or they are actually hiring. And that product belongs to the Kingfisher, and the material comes back to them, and they dismantle and they do remanufacturing or recycling. Everything comes back to them. And this is a good example to show the decoupling is very possible. It's something from the first mobile phone, which was 870 grams and 11 inches long, and it has become so small, but so smart. So you can see the decoupling while reducing the material going into product, we can improve the quality of life. That's what we are talking of decoupling, improve the quality of life while reducing the environmental impact as well as the resource impact. So this can be, it's a good example. We have done this. We have done in many other areas also, a lot of examples like this. So it's very easy to do this. And even this, I mean, listening to music. You remember, I'm not going to go into full details. Many years ago, we had to have the gramophone or maybe some player, which changed over time to cassette player, tape recorder, cassette player, then maybe the CDs and DVDs and all these. Today, we don't need anything. We have the mobile phone or maybe the computer. You can go online and listen to music. You don't need all this infrastructure. Maybe one central infrastructure can provide music to maybe the entire country. And so you can see the changes are happening. This can be, I mean, improvements are possible. Decoupling is possible. And when we talk about the resource recovery, you see in our country, especially the banana and pineapple, we are wasting so much the plant. The plant, after harvesting, we bury them or we cut them, allowing them to rot. But can they be converted to so much of valuable material? In Philippines, you can buy this shirt. Maybe now it's about $50. It may be transparent. You can see through, but it is their national dress. And people are proud to wear that. And all the other material. South India is making so many carpets and all those materials. You can see how, I mean, the world can change. And this is what actually we can do. And if we can change, we'll be able to actually go for the circular economy, and by even changing our packaging through recycling and renewability. And these are also reducing the carbon footprint, changing from aluminum to different other materials. All these are possible, available solutions in the world. Another example, of course, I'm taking this from Sri Lanka. Many years ago, when we were working with Palwata Sugar Factory, we came out with an idea. Why can't we have a cane sugar plant which can be converted to paper? This is happening in other countries. And we can convert the molasses into an eco-fuel. It can go to the distillery. We are producing the alcohol, not for the vehicles, but for the drivers. We should change it from the drivers to the vehicles. And also we can convert the molasses into animal feed. And also we can have a plantation which can generate power, at least for that region. And then all the waste from the factory and cane plantation can go for composting and can be provided in into the area, not only the plantation, to the other areas also for cane plantation, which is an organic farming sort of a plan. So we can do this. I mean, this can be applied to many other industries in the country. So if you do that, I'm sure we can achieve the global sustainability of a change different business model. We have to be low carbon. We have to depend on renewable energy. We have to be resource efficient. We have to go for circular material flows. We have to be inclusive. We need to have equity and equal opportunity. And with that, we need to change the lifestyles. At least the corona, the COVID-19 has contributed to change of some lifestyles, but not all. Probably we have to start thinking about it. So we need to think of this, the new world, the promise of renewable energy. Actually, you can see the last one is a matter of national will and leadership. And all other matters, but ultimately is the national will and leadership. So we need to go for this renewable energy. And for the material, we have to go circular economy. We have to start reusing, repairing. I think one of the things we did many years ago, we had to go back to repair and reuse, repair and use, then the reuse, then the remanufacture, and also recycling. This circular economy can be done, especially in the technical nutrients created by the man, whereas the biological feedback can go into the earth and renew of their own. And another important thing, finally, I want to tell you, when King Parakramabahu Great said, he didn't say, let us not allow a single drop of water run off to the sea without obtaining the maximum use of it for the benefit of the mankind. He didn't say that. The singular word is ලෝකෝපකාරය සඳහා නොයදවා මූදට යාමට ඉඩ නොහරිය යුතුය. Lokopakaria means not only mankind, we have to think of all others also to get the maximum benefit of the world. And this is one of the earliest, I think, the statements about or advice about circular material flows and also about sustainability. We have to understand, I think if we start thinking about this, we'll be able to switch to a sustainable consumption within our control. We can do that. And we can start with a sustainability mindset. I think with that, I would like to remind you again what we learned when we were very small. මේගසේ බොහෝ පැණිදුරන් ඇති පැහිලා ඉති ලැබීමට නැමිල්ල බර වෙලා අතු. නංගිටමටයි ගෙඩි දැක් ඇති වැඩිය කරන නරක ළමයි එහෙම නොවේ ඇති. This is the whole philosophy of sustainable consumption. There are enough resources and let others use them. I don't need anything. So let's follow this practice, what we learned. Unfortunately, we forgot it after our kindergarten. Now it's time for us to think about it and come back to it. With this, I say thank you. Let's protect the world. And this thank you is not from me, it's from the future, from the baby who will become the citizen of the world in future if you are a sustainable consumer. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Piris. This thank you is not from me, but from the baby you see here. So thank you very much for sharing with us your experience, your knowledge.